Let me give y'all a history on the land that we call the low end. See, I'm going to take it way back to the 1840s when a small group of runaway slaves from down south found a permanent place to settle in the area of what became Chicago. This area stretched from 22nd to 31st South State Street. In like 1905, with the investment of $25, a nigga named Robert S. Abbott founded the Chicago Defender newspaper. On May 17, 1917, the Chicago Defender announced the Great North Drive, displaying how beautiful Chicago was for blacks compared to down south. They started distributing the Defender in the southern states. Southern lawmakers hated that shit. You know what I'm saying? They banned the newspaper and threatened anybody with stiff penalties who was found reading or distributing the paper. Southern blacks poured into Chicago by the thousands, looking for better opportunities in life, but was forced to live with the rest of the blacks in the slums of what they called the Black Belt community, which was located from 16th to 39th Street all the way to the lake. And I know you heard the phrase, stay to the lake. Well, this is where it all began. Young niggas in the Black Belt community was exposed to prostitution, gambling, and drunks on a daily basis, while their parents had the door of opportunity slammed in their face. These young niggas was ambitious and hungry. They turned gambling and prostitution into a multi-million-dollar enterprise in the hood of the Black Belt community. This district developed a special reputation for sin and corruption, though. The hood of the Black Belt community created its own economy within Chicago that included hundreds of after-hour joints and gambling houses along 16th to 39th and State Street. You see, the Black Belt community birthed legends that helped niggas make ends meet. You know what I'm saying? Like the legendary gambler Sam Young, who lived on 29th South Federal. He introduced the policy game to Chicago. You know what the policy is. It's now known as the state's lottery. You know, yeah, that's right. The powers that be stole the policy game from the black people in the hood of the Black Belt community. Back then, this chick named Madam Vin Fields, she ran the biggest whorehouse in Chicago on State Street in the Black Belt community. She employed over 70 prostitutes. You know what I'm saying? Being that she couldn't take care of her family, she couldn't get a job or none, she got on the stroll and made it happen by any means necessary to feed her family. The madam used the money that she received from prostitutes to put her daughters and some of her prostituting friends through college. The legendary gangster Al Capone, also known as Scarface, knew how much the hood of the Black Belt community was making. This motherfucker wanted to take over the whole operation, but niggas weren't having that shit. A senator of the states called Capone up and told him that the people of the Black Belt community was in good graces with them, plus they ain't scared of no white gangster. Shortly after that, an agreement was made and Capone told his guys to get the fuck out the Black Belt community. Back in 1919, the month I think was July, a black team mistakenly floated to the white side of the lake on 29th Street and was stoned to death in the water. Niggas wild the fuck out. This shit caused a 7-day ride across Chicago. When it stopped, 23 blacks was killed, 15 whites was killed, and another 537 people got their ass kicked, white and black. After the riots, Illinois Governor Frank Loudon appointed a commission to investigate the reason for this shit. You know why it happened, and it reported that the racist violence of white gangs helped foster segregation in Chicago, and the head of the pack was the Reagan Coats. If y'all don't know who the Reagan Coats was, this was a white street gang named after a Cook County commissioner named Frank Reagan. They were formed to scare off all the southern black people who poured into Chicago and bidded for lesser pay wages. Back like in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, the Black Belt community started getting overcrowded and it started expanding to other parts of the city, you know, like Washington Park, Inglewood, Woodlawn area, West Madison Street, North Lawndale area, and Ogden Park. By the late 1930s, the black population in the community continued to grow and start expanding into the white ethnic neighborhoods. You know they ain't like that shit. The city council viewed the Black Belt community as disorganized, diseased, ridden, and foul. White people ain't want our black ass pouring into their community, so the city council decided to replace the slums of the Black Belt community with large-scale public projects. Now peep this crazy shit I just found out. I just read that IIT put together a study on how rats would live in a large high-rise building. So they pour hundreds of rats into this model community to live, right? After 5 rat generations of living in this model project, the study showed that the rats became dysfunctional and they got worse generation after generation. There were king rats who had sex with all the female rats. They had bully rats who gangstered their way through everything in the project. They had gay rats. Then they had mother rats who wouldn't take care of her babies after birth, so the mice didn't learn how to grow up and be rats. You know what I'm saying? Instead of them replacing the slums of the black belt community with new modern apartments, the city built prison-like warehouses for the poor black people so they could stay out of the neighborhoods of the white people. By 1950, the city council in Chicago recognized some of the problems in creating a large high-rise public housing, namely the use of the elevators. But the new CHA struggled from the very start to manage the projects and provided inadequate service, and the maintenance failures created a demoralizing environment for the tenants. In 1955, the Harold Ickes home was built. Harold L. Ickes, a Secretary of Interior for Franklin D. Roosevelt. From 22nd to 24th and State, the Harold Ickes homes housed over 5,000 tenants and only 738 units. Damn. Between 1967 and 1974, public housing went all downhill and was labeled the city's most visible public shame. I don't know the exact time when the name of the community changed from the black belt to the low end, but this is where it all begins for black people in Chicago, baby. So my question to you is, what went wrong with public housing? Why did they neglect public housing? Was this all part of a plan?